What if I told you this? Some of the deepest beliefs you have about yourself right now that you've carried your whole life aren't random, but rather they were inherited. And some of the deepest things you believe about yourself today weren't all things that you came up with on your own. But what if they were slowly built and put in place piece by piece, brick by brick, by people around you? People you love and, maybe some that you don't, but rather you spent years defending yourself and defending an identity that you actually didn't even choose for yourself. That's what today's about. So I've been thinking a lot lately about how much of our identity that, we've built is our own. Like, think about it, because before you decide actually who you were, right, at a younger age, as we're figuring it all out, people on the outside kind of were already nudging you about who you were, maybe directly, indirectly. I have mentors and people around me when I was young, and I'm sure you did too. Coaches, teachers, friends, enemies, the culture you came from, the groups you were in, your community. Some of these individuals were very encouraging, built you up. The narratives of, you were the shy kid or the smart kid or the loud kid, the bad kid. Hey, you fast. You'll never this, you'll never that. You always do this, you always do that. So you gotten thousands and thousands of stories about yourself, even when you actually weren't even old enough to question any of them. But what if some of these messages that were told to you and us over these years about ourselves weren't completely true? So we're wired to be influenced. And a lot of times this influence creates a story about who we are. And once that story starts, something else really starts to form and happen around us. We naturally start looking for evidence in our environment to confirm it, whether we are trying or not. So if you've ever heard confirmation bias, this is what we're talking about here. If I believe I'm a confident person, I'm going to look for stuff to confirm that. If I believe that, I may be a little bit awkward, I internalize maybe every prior conversation or situation that I was awkward, and this type of mentality has no end. If you feel like you procrastinate, if you don't follow through, the moment it happens again in real time serves as evidence that you don't follow through. So even if you do have other evidence that proves you can, you may believe the other part of the story. So then, it can even add another layer. So you add, your actual life experience from, childhood or sports or career, relationships, failure, success, all these stacked on top of each other. Every single experience has the potential to reinforce the story we're already telling ourselves in our head. And as the years go by, that story becomes the identity that we see ourselves through, and that identity that we shape decisions through. It could affect everything from the risks we take, the risks we avoid, the job we take, the opportunities we take or do not, how we respond to adversity, or even like the destiny we imagine ourselves to have. So here's the big question I keep coming back to. What if we've spent years trying to prove an identity to others and ourselves that we didn't even actually choose? And not because it truly reflects even who we are, but because it's the story that we've heard from the beginning. It's deep stuff if you truly take time to think about these things. So it's never the goal to erase any of your previous experiences because they matter. They built you to who you are now. They've shaped you. They've shaped us. And that's important. But, shaping you isn't the same as defining you. Shaping us gives us information, right? It gives us clues and cues, but it doesn't have to define us. And I think it deserves to be, kept around, but it deserves to be questioned. Because growth really happens when you start to truly understand which part of the story is actually truly who you are, who we are. So again, here's something to think about. Think of one belief, just one. Don't overthink it, just one. What's one belief that you've never really examined, but maybe deserves some further investigation? Where did it come from? Who gave you that label? The origin. But does that actually still have a place today? Does it still show up? Because you ain't got to believe everything. You don't have to believe or accept every story that's come to pass about yourself. And just right here, maybe just with this study is when a new chapter can begin. New page can be turned. So if this short conversation gave you even a little bit to think about, let me know in the comments, what's one belief about yourself that you're beginning to question, even right now during this video or even before? Because you got to be here for a reason. And if you're interested ongoing in exploring, the psychology of identity and self-trust, purpose and direction and momentum, all the things, subscribe to the channel. I'm Darren. Move forward. I'll see you in the next video.